No, there. Hi, everybody. Can hear me okay? So, my name is Trudy, and I'm the founder of InsightLA. Welcome, all of you, welcome to our Sunday morning sitting group. We welcome everybody at InsightLA from all walks of life, all all identities, and very, very happy to be here with you this morning. And happy to see you, Juan, too. Um, we lost one of our team members, former team members at Inside LA, Edward Carlos. Some of you may not even know it, but you probably had interactions with Edward because he used to be the one who answered the phone and stuff. So very kind, very sweet man, and very, very sad. Very sad to lose him. Yeah. So we will also do a little loving kindness for Edward later on. Sorry, I'm fiddling with this to try and get that light streak out of the way. Oops, I can fix my hair too. There. Um, Good morning, Alicia. I'll give a shout out to Alicia Talbert, who is our executive director at Inside LA. Really happy that you're here with us this morning, Alicia. So we usually take a few minutes while people are arriving. You can look at the gallery pages and see who's here. And while I keep fiddling with this, there were several tribes. I'm not sure exactly which one is Venice, but it's basically the Tongva, and then I think further north the Chumash, and then a little bit south the Key tribes of indigenous people. And I want to acknowledge that we are on this land. So first we're going to meditate together. I do some guided meditation, but not a whole lot. So if you don't like guided meditations, don't panic. Um, there won't be too much, but I want to do some guided today because I'd like our meditation to be flavored with loving kindness, with metta. Um, and we can offer this metta in honor of really Edward Carlos, of course, but also anybody who we may have lost and loved. In my case, most recently, my brother and my brother-in-law, within 2 weeks of each other. One expected in a sense, although you always hope somebody will recover. That's my brother-in-law. And the other, my brother. But each of you have sustained losses, either deaths or a loved one who's in trouble. So I want to encourage you. We're offering this morning's meditation and our loving kindness practice to Edward Carlos, to Michael Stroud, and to the people, your loved ones, whoever they may be, anyone who may be suffering in trouble or have passed away recently. So finding your seat, your seat, which may be lying down, which may be lying down, wherever it is for you, that your body feels held and supported, and um, that you can relax as much as possible. I think the Zoom in some ways makes it easier to both easier and perhaps a little more challenging. Easier to relax because we don't have to uh, be concerned about whether somebody hears us breathe or burp or whatever happens. And maybe a little more challenging because there's such a warmth and companionability when we're in each other's physical presence. So I'm going to ring the bell, which is a signal to our whole being that it's safe to relax, to lower the gaze, to or close the eyes, to really step back and inhabit the inner world for a while. And beginning by taking 3 deep breaths, breathing in the aliveness of this moment, and breathing out, releasing, letting go. And once again, breathing in and out. And one more time, a deep breath in, and that relaxing, calming, releasing breath out. And then inviting the breath to just, not that the breath needs an invitation. Our breath is so attuned to us. The breath will assume its natural rhythm, attuned to the state of mind and heart and body that's happening right now. And feeling the movement of the breath, allowing the body, the mind, the heart to settle a little more with each out breath. And it's kind of a subtle thing, but seeing if you can notice how the breath really does begin to slow down, get a little bit smoother as the mind calms down. And stepping back more and more from the world of the past and the world of the future. Just allowing your whole being to rest more and more deeply in the presence of now. And just noticing how it is for you right now. If the mind is jumpy, busy, or agitated, just bringing a little more attention to the out breath. The calming breath. And if your tension is sleepy or dull, just bringing slightly more attention to the in breath, the energizing breath, the enlivening breath. And if the breath isn't a soothing subject of meditation for you at all, just focusing on the hands. There's so much sensation in each finger, each thumb, the palms of the hands, the backs of the hands, and just being with that dance of sensation in the hands, only happening right now. And allowing yourself to enjoy, to linger, to savor this moment of life. Offering some appreciation. This is a kind of metta of loving kindness, goodwill, and appreciation for how far you've come. You've come this far, living to this moment. Just taking pause and linger in the appreciation. And if you're not feeling appreciation, use your imagination and just imagine feeling a sense of greeting from your own heart. Or you can imagine your teacher or the teacher of us all in this tradition, the Buddha, smiling at you, looking at you with warmth, with eyes of love and tenderness. Returning the trust and respect felt for your teachers. By offering and receiving that respect and honoring of your teacher, you honor yourself. We honor ourselves. We experience metta, friendliness, and warmth. This is the greeting from the heart. A welcome. A gladness. And as you imagine the Buddha looking at you with eyes of love, imagine you're welcomed by others, just as you are, that who you are is enough. And just feeling the warmth of the welcoming heart, whether imagining that others are glad to see you, inviting you in, welcoming your presence. Witnessing yourself, inviting and encouraging yourself. And just sensing and feeling the warmth of the welcoming heart. And allowing that warmth to suffuse, just radiate out from the heart through the whole body, through the space around you, in front and behind, to the sides, above and below. Just holding your whole being with this valuing quality and extending it to all beings who are suffering, to all beings everywhere. All beings in the war zones, all beings who are fleeing, all those who are receiving, refugees, and all those who aspire to live in a loving, caring, mindful way. This is what we call Sangha, or community. Where we're offering and receiving this goodwill, warmth, and welcome in our own beings and to each other. So thank you everybody for your practice together. Um, and, and Caroline, I just want to make sure that everybody is muted.
Yes, everyone is.
Thank you. Thank you. So this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are, this evening, I want to speak a little bit about um, a particular manifestation of metta, of loving kindness. And what I mean by that is the way in which we can look with eyes of appreciation at each other, perhaps new eyes of appreciation um, for each other, that the ways that we can look at things we may have overlooked, that is, looked past, not seen, or seen glancingly, the way we often, our mind moves so fast and doesn't necessarily linger and savor and look deeply and feel and sense what's happening in a relationship or with our perception of ourselves or another person. Um, I'm just, yes. And this was really triggered for me by reflecting about my brother, and I spoke last week about the power of acceptance, the power of the acceptance that my brother, who had a lot of mental struggles and mental illness throughout his life, found in the community, almost a kind of indigenous community back in the Andes of southern Ecuador, quite remote place. The quality of acceptance that he found there and how healing that was for him, and how people there could look at him with fresh eyes, not through the eyes of the stigma of mental illness, but to see his good heart and to appreciate his really funny and quirky sense of humor and other qualities. His good qualities, like we all have our good qualities, and it caused me to really reflect on his life before, his life in the United States, and his life in our family of origin, the family where my dad was a very unique and, in his own way, very high achieving person. And I don't mean in his own way high achieving. He was high achieving in the eyes of the world. Uh, he had that blessing of fine education, and even though he didn't have money and his dad died when he was young, he was brilliant enough to get scholarships and really make a name and a place for himself in the world. And he did not know how to appreciate my brother, um, who was not able to follow a path like that at all. And and I was thinking, and I spoke last week about the qualities of strength and courage that it takes to persevere and to to survive, really, to stay alive, to not um, to not cave to despair, to not give up and end one's life, even when it is incredibly agonizing and hard. Just the immense courage that that takes. And then I heard this week, it was a podcast, Fresh Air, with an interview of Ocean Vuong, a Vietnamese writer who has recently published a book of poems about his grief at the death of his mother, poems inspired uh, by his grief at the death of his mother. And he says grief is perhaps the last translation of love. I thought that was a beautiful phrase. And he also talks about his mother as an immigrant, as a refugee from Vietnam, um, part of and Caroline has just posted the link to that podcast, which I recommend. It's very beautiful because he talks about his mother's life. She became, um, she worked in a nail salon, and he talked about the incredible skill and craft of doing people's nails. And in his, of course, he's a beautiful writer, inspired language in talking about his mother, her qualities of acceptance of him, how she said to him, she never required that he become anybody or anything. She said, just do what makes you feel happy. And if all else fails, there's always a place for you here at the nail salon. We can work together. And so he was very free to explore life without that burden of expectation or having to measure up that my brother had to carry in his heart. And he talked, and as I listened to him talk and describe his mother, her leaning over uh, the feet of her clients, bending over, whether it was their hands or their feet, but always her head bent over to do that precise and painstaking work that requires so much skill. I don't know if you've ever, I've tried to give myself a manicure, and I don't know, my left hand looks sort of okay because I'm right-handed, but my right hand always looks like, maybe our 3-year-old grandson did it. And it really takes a lot of skill. And as he describes and honors her skill and her survival and her courage and her life, I felt how beautiful the specificity of um, his illustration, his description of her, and how hard it is for us to appreciate, I think, sometimes the specificity of each other's qualities. We can sort of globally appreciate, yes, we are all aspiring to live more loving, caring, mindful lives. We're that kind of community. Wouldn't be here if that wasn't part of your heart's aspiration. And when we looked at our intentions on New Year's and shared them, yes, everybody's intention was um, some elaboration of that theme of I want to be of benefit in the world. I want to be of some kind of service. I want to learn to love better. I want to learn to receive love. Um, and and we don't often know how to see the specificity of how each other is going about this, or the ways in which some of the unskillful things we do are misunderstood attempts in this direction. And so that those particulars of each other, the seeing the ways in which immigrants or refugees, and we're all immigrants here in this country, unless we are Native American, fully indigenous people, we're all immigrants to this country, and seeing the specific ways that we are skilled at surviving, and the specific ways that those of us who have mental struggles survive, choose to survive. And the more that we can begin to perceive and appreciate this in each other, the less anybody has to feel othered, no matter what their particular challenge or disability or targeted identity may be. Because that foundational experience of feeling othered, it stays with you your whole life. And that's something that Ocean Vuong was talking about in this podcast, and um, he was talking about wondering, do I have a voice? Does my voice matter? Is anybody listening? He attributes some of the thoroughness of his own work, going over things over and over and over, um, to that question, is anybody actually listening? Talks about the experience of watching his elders, in this case his mother and his grandmother. His dad, I guess, just walked out and never came back. I don't know how old he was, but young. Of watching his mother, people he looked up to so much as a child, the all-powerful adults in your world, right? Watching them be dismissed and not listened to by the white culture around them. And so these experiences, how can we make sure that that we feel seen and appreciated in some way? Maybe it's a small way, but it matters. It matters. It matters to honor, to notice, to appreciate. And the more that, it's like revering teachers, the more that we honor, say, the Buddha or whoever it might be, who is an honored teacher in your life. By doing that, our respect for ourselves, honoring ourselves, grows. The teachers, the deities, whoever it may be, they don't need your reverence and your honoring. It's for you, it's for me, it's for each one of us to learn to suffuse the holding in our hearts with that quality of respect and appreciation. And it's a way to we talk about holding experience, being able to hold each other, being able to hold ourselves, being able to hold our anger. But what kind of holding is it? Is it the kind of holding where we hold something and, try to like, I don't know, stick it under the chair or under the rug or hide it somewhere? Or is it a holding that has that quality of valuing in it? Of, yeah, of, I love that sense of welcoming who we are, welcoming, you know, welcoming who we are in all the states that we inhabit. That sense of welcoming, of receiving a greeting from our own hearts. And the poets, David White and Derek Walcott, and have written beautiful poems about this. And yeah, maybe I'll find one and post one for you. But this kind of attention is so different from the kind of attention that this kind of attention that is warm and welcoming and inviting and understanding and embracing. It creates a compassionate, healing space, like the acceptance that really healed my brother in his chosen community, his chosen country. Um, and and so much I feel of looking at our justice system. Um, it's not a compassionate healing space of redemption, teaching us how to pay it forward. Whatever we feel guilty about in our lives. I yelled at my parents. I stole candy from my mother. Whatever it might be. Um, but to look at that, we can redeem ourselves by becoming pure hearted, by becoming kind, by being of service or of being a blessing in our own ways. There are 1,000 Dharma doors, 10,000 Dharma doors. One time somebody asked my Korean Zen teacher, Daesan Sanim, about Kensho or having an enlightenment experience. And he said, well, what kind do you want? He said, there are 84,000 kinds. Which one do you want? Do you want to be enlightened through which, when he said 84,000, that's like in the sutras when they say all 500 were enlightened. It just means a lot, okay? Many people is what it means. And in this case, countless Dharma doors. What you're hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, thinking, feeling in this moment is a Dharma door. It's a doorway into the truth of this moment, right? And so when he talked about which one do you want, it was such a beautiful way of cutting through the concept of what's going to help us, of how we're going to awaken. And it's not going to be through the books and even the suttas or the systems of practice that we do, but those devoting ourselves to those things is a way of letting our minds and hearts know we are determined, we are going to awaken, and it is inevitable that it will happen when we hold this intention, especially when we hold it with that valuing, respectful, kind of honoring quality. And just through forming the intention and making the effort to do better in our lives, each one of us is making great progress on our path. This is so important to feel. I listened to a teaching by Alicia on Friday. We were teaching together in Benedict Canyon with Maureen Shannon Chappell and Chris Chappell, a group from LMU. And Alicia was speaking about her own tradition of Tibetan Buddhist practice and how there's a concept called Vajra pride. And it's not the pride of being, egotistical or conceited or, um, snobby or anything like that. It's the pride that is actually confidence. It's the pride that is actually that kind of greeting of the heart. Hey, you're here. I love that you're here, present in this life. Welcome. Um, Trusting that we can be welcomed by others, trusting in the welcome of our own hearts, trusting in the welcome of our teachers and those who wish us well and really want us to awaken in this life, um, and understand what they have understood. So that is the kind of pride that is called Vajra pride. It's a solid foundation, and it's something that actually can cut through the confusion and that sort of unsettled, disoriented feeling of doubt. Do I have what it takes? Um, all the things that doubt makes us doubt. Am I being listened to? Uh, am I being seen? Am I being understood? Am I being welcomed? That's what the Vajra pride is, a kind of support for trust. It's a support for trusting, um, having confidence in the good. Vajra is spelled Vajra. And I think the Vajra is like a thunderbolt, right, Alicia? It's a symbol. Can you unmute? I have to maybe unmute you, or can you unmute yourself?
There we go. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so Vajra is a symbol that usually stands for diamond. And so from time to time, it is represented by, yes, Trudy, a thunderbolt, or that sort of dorje that you see on someone's altar. Yeah, but Vajra typically refers to a diamond.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the diamond, of course, has that quality of extreme strength, as well as the ability to reflect brilliantly in that way. So I think this morning, this is really what I wanted to speak to the need that we have for being understood and seen and appreciated, and as a kind of appeal to myself, to you, to each one of us, to see if we can use the presence, the awareness, the mindfulness that we cultivate in our meditation practice and in our classes and programs and sitting groups and things that we do like this, together, to practice and appreciate the teachings, that to see, can we hone our ability to discern these positive, specific qualities in each other. I mean, I was lucky. I felt globally appreciated by my parents, but I didn't feel, especially with my mom, that she actually knew who I was in any of my interiority, and that she didn't know how to know, really. She didn't know how to know. I don't know that she looked inside herself in that way. She had Anyway, I want to encourage each one of us to kind of linger, uh, and to reflect on that in ourselves and each other, to reflect on the qualities that lead to survival, the qualities that lead to thriving, the qualities that lead to being content with ourselves as being enough. And this is kind of the paradox of practice, that we need to accept and experience that just who we are in this moment is enough. That this, my Sansanim, my first teacher, again, he used to call it, he'd say, Zen mind is enough mind. That sense that this moment is complete, that I am complete as I am, that you are complete as you are, that you have in this moment all the ingredients that it takes to wake up. So there's that sense of, fully accepting as we are, come as you are party. That's what meditation is, right? But then also that intention to grow, to learn, to understand, to deepen, our practice, our ability to discern the beautiful qualities in each other, what Thomas Merton called the secret beauty of each other. He said if we could see that in each other walking around, on the street, we would just fall to our knees and bow down and worship each other for the miracle and beauty that each one of us, that our lives are. And to do that, yes, in the global universal way of we're all interconnected, we all deserve each other's love. But I think what I'm also calling for and asking of myself is to see and appreciate the details, the specificity of the personal. I have really tried to do that with my grandkids. I didn't really know how to do that as a mom. That's the blessing of getting to live long enough to become a grandparent. And it doesn't have to be your own kids. You can, if you didn't have children yourself, there's always children around who need some extra love and attention, who you can adopt as your chosen grandchild. In fact, I have been adopted by my friend Butch, who is 1 year older than I am, and he is now he has adopted me as his granddaughter. So you can, this is a free world. You can adopt a child. It's really good because you can practice it with them. And I wrote about this in my book, and I've mentioned it in Dharma talks, but I considered that my ultimate success in life was when my granddaughter, in a moment of, probably she was arguing with her parents, she was 5 years old, I think, at the time, and she had had undiagnosed celiac disease for most of her life, and so there were a lot of digestive problems and other problems that until finally somebody diagnosed her, she had. And so what she said has even more meaning in the light of that. But anyway, she was arguing with them, and she said, Nini, that's my grandmother name, Nini loves everything about me, even my poo-poo. To be able to give somebody that sense, to be able to have that sense, right? This is what we call equal taste. This is what we call equanimity. There's lots of fancy spiritual names for this, but let's just stick with love and appreciation for this morning. So that's what I wanted to share with you this morning. And now we have some time for some exchange with each other. And I think there will also be breakout groups. Is that true, Caroline? Will we be having that today?
Of course, yes, we'll be having breakout rooms from 12:30 to 1.
Okay, great. So what we do is take a brief bio break, whatever you need at the end of this group, and then don't sign off. Stay on, and then you'll be put into a small group where you can, just talk about your practice and get to know each other a little better. So for now, if you would like to share, it doesn't have to be anything about what I said, but whatever is just arising in your heart that you would like to make more real by saying it out loud, or get some feedback, or just this is your time, and you can go to the reaction button at the bottom right of your screen and raise your hand, and then either Caroline or I, whoever sees you first, will invite you to unmute yourself. And you can also put your thoughts and feelings, very chat positive here in the chat if you want. I was just looking. Oh, Minna is here from Chicago. Oh, wow. Minna was our volunteer coordinator for a long time at InsightLA. Happy to see you here. And Mel and Hillary, who were part of Sunday Morning Sitting Group whenever they were in LA. Hi. And Catherine is one of Catherine and Bob Poole are the only folks here who knew me in my previous incarnation in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And Catherine is a teacher in her own right up in San Francisco and studied with me for a long, long time, and with me and my husband, George, for a long, long time, and is a wonderful psychologist and practitioner. And you could kind of raise your hand, Catherine. I'd sort of like to introduce you because you've taught at InsightLA. Yeah, Catherine has taught with me, and I think maybe even on her own too, and been part of our teacher group in and out at different points. So, Mel, do you have your hand up, or is that something white behind you? I think it's just something like a window behind your head. Actually,
You,
it's not your hand.
yeah, for some reason, I have these streaks across my screen. I can't get rid of them. And I'm very dark, even though I have a bright light shining in my face.
Is that
So
true? Oh
I,
yeah, yes, I can see. I can
I
see now.
apologize.
It looks like you're looking through sort of horizontal bars or
Like
something.
there's a window blind, but there, it just went
There.
away.
It just went
Okay.
when
I
you
don't
waved.
know why it was here.
Magic when you waved your hand,
Uh,
it went away.
okay.
Is there anything you'd
Thank
like to
you.
share, Catherine?
That was such a beautiful talk, Trudy. I felt so much. um, I felt waves, emanation waves of like love and valuing coming from your intention and your words, and just that was very nourishing. I felt really nourished by your talk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll read you a poem if nobody wants to say anything. Okay. Actually, this is from an Ocean Vuong poem. This is from his most recent book, which is the title of the book is "Time is a Mother." So he's talking about the moment. He's talking about after his mother died. It's a long poem, but he says, when they zipped my mother in a body bag, I whispered, "Rose, get out of there. Your plants are dying. Enough is enough. Body, doorway that you are, be more than what I'll pass through." Stillness, that's what it was. And then he goes on, he's talking about a man in a field in a red sweater that was so still that it was like a painting, that he became, and, and this is the specificity. The man in the field in the red sweater, he was so still, he became somehow more true, like a knife wound in a landscape painting. Like him, I caved. I caved and decided it will be joy from now on. I love that. I caved and decided it will be joy from now on. Then everything opened. The lights blazed around me into a white weather, and I was lifted, wet and bloody, out of my mother, screaming, and enough. I love this part where he says, I caved. I don't know about you, but in the last week, there have been moments when I caved. There's been a lot more than I can share, but just to say that there was a moment when I caved. I was in the little back area behind the cottage where I live and going through. I'm going to have to move in a while. And so I was starting to go through some stuff I had stored in a shed and back, kind of mildewy stuff. And it was stuff from my former life, a big backpack with all my camping gear. And I thought, I can't even carry that backpack anymore. That backpack full of stuff. I mean, I'm lucky if I can hike with just this body, with no pack at all at this point with my bag. And one thing after another seemed to bring sort of some reminder of either a loss or my mortality or something I couldn't do anymore. And I caved in a moment. And I thought, oh, I understand why people give up in despair. Don't get me wrong, this is not the first moment I understood that in this life, but I had a moment of it that I want to share with you because we have a choice in that moment. And some people seem, to choose to go with the pain and stay loyal to the pain. And I've certainly done that too, plenty of times in this life. But then there are the times when we choose joy. And I choose joy right now with my brother. It's just too heartbreaking otherwise. And I try to remember the times we played as kids. Oh gosh, how I used to punch him and stuff. And then I will smile. I mean, he'd punch me back. And then, of course, my mom would comfort him and say, don't worry, you're going to get bigger than she is someday. Hard to believe. I didn't believe it. But guess what? It happened. So when he says, I caved and decided it will be joy from now on, then everything opened. When I remember playing with my brother, I smile. We can choose joy. So I'm going to lift out of this poem and see if anybody has their hand up now. Okay, Mel. Can you unmute yourself now, Mel? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you are.
I was going to say something. I was listening very carefully, but I was very touched by what you said about your brother and your relationship. I lost my brother. It was 2006. I've even lost track of when it was. 2002. And when we were children, I was 10 years younger than he was. So he was my mentor. I was very close to him. And I could feel that closeness that you felt toward your brother as you spoke about him. And during the initial meditation, what I did was to get into a lot of very positive thoughts about my brother. It was pure love. He was just, he was my big brother and
Oh,
always was my big brother.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Lucky,
So,
lucky. You had a good big brother.
very much so. And I was feeling very close to you when I heard about your loss. And I wanted to share my heart, our hearts, Hillary and mine, with you in your loss of your brother.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you can transfer that to joy you're talking about now.
Oh yeah, thank you. I feel it. When you share your love with me, it transfers into joy and appreciation.
Just love you very much, and we miss being able to be in your presence. Those years of
Yeah,
coming
so
to this
many years.
lesson
Yeah,
on
it was
Sunday
great.
morning were wonderful, precious. And you are, and we will continue to do it this way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to see you both. Clark. Okay. Yeah, you're unmuted.
Am I unmuted? Now I'm unmuted. Thank you, Trudy. That was wonderful to sit with you this morning and with everybody here. And I'm sorry to hear about your brother. And there's so much of that that goes on in the world, in our lives. Robert and I just had a friend of Robert's, his wife on the East Coast was in a terrible car accident 2 days ago, and she died this morning. and it was just completely out of the blue.
Mm.
And what a reminder that it's all kind of a dream. We're just here for a moment, and really unknown as to what our path will be and what will occur. Uh, but really, what I was just thinking about as you were talking this morning, and caving and letting things in, maybe letting new things in. This weekend, I spent some time with a man from Afghanistan who had come to the States 15, 20 years ago. And I just viewed him as somebody who was other, that I look around my world and there's a lot of people I understand who they are. I kind of go, oh, I get you. I know what you're about. And here was a man that was born and raised in Afghanistan, came to the country, and he met a year ago a woman he's deeply in love with. He took the woman to his family here in the States, that are here in Los Angeles area, that are Afghan, and they're practicing Muslims. And they said, you're dishonoring the family. Don't ever bring her back. Don't come back to the family with her. And he said, well, that's the way my family will be. And I'm very much in love with this woman. And it was just an aspect of his life, again, that seemed very other, very different. And the moment that really struck me about him is he said, you know, there's sometimes where I'm here, I live in an apartment right next to the beach. There's sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll feel the need to run down to the beach, to stand in front of the ocean and to look up and say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. This is such a beautiful life that you've given me. This is so amazing. I'm so happy to be here. This is such a life. And I thought, God, I don't know who this man is, but the moment of just saying, what a beautiful life this is, with everything that goes on, with people that are dying and getting hurt and etc. It's an amazing dream that we're in. And I understood what he was saying. And I understood he's coming from Afghanistan. He's got these issues, and he opens his arms and just says, thank you for this amazing, beautiful life that I live in. And it's because he was so other that it really struck me. And I went, oh my God, I understand that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's an example of just really recognizing a specific quality of incredible gratitude and spacious hearts. I don't know, spacious heartedness, capacious heart. I don't know what word to use, but yes, yes, thank you. That's a beautiful story, a beautiful remembrance, and it's a reminder for each one of us. This mind that is measuring and comparing and sort of calculating, and this is the mind that is often punitive and harsh on ourselves, and as opposed to, it's measuring things instead of being measureless, immeasurable, and boundless and benevolent, and just that gesture, of opening your arms, right, to embrace it all. Oh my gosh, that's such a powerful, yeah, thank you. Thank you for telling us about that, Clark. And I also want to express my incredible sorriness and sympathy for the loss of your friend's wife. Just boom, like that. It's so shocking when it's sudden. It's so shocking. Sudden death is really a shock to the heart. So
And
please.
she was a person that was a little bit afraid in her life and was always very careful, very cautious, very afraid. And her whole life, and she has 2 children, and her whole life led to this moment that's just shocking. That's just shocking.
Yeah, yeah. And please give Robert a hug for me.
I will.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're there, Robert. You got the hug. Hi. Bob has his hand up. You're unmuted, Bob.
Yeah, here I am. Hi,
Hi.
thanks, Trudy. I'm really sorry about your losses, and Robert's, all of ours, really. We all have them.
Don't we?
Some of them are more recent and more shocking than others. I was thinking about what you said about opening up to, seeing the specificity of people. I had several thoughts about it. First one I had was it takes a lot of courage. We talk about it takes courage to sit with yourself, you know, but I find it takes a lot of courage to sit with somebody else if you're really interested in hearing who they are, because at least for me, it often stirs up a lot. Stirs up my prejudices, my insecurities, throws me back on my own stuff in some often some difficult ways. But it's I started to say it's always worth the trouble. I think I should qualify that as almost always, because there must be some exceptions in my experience that aren't coming to mind. But I always end up feeling glad that I did it, and in the times when I don't do it for whatever reason, I often end up regretting it and feeling like I really missed something. Or I missed something about me, I missed something about them that's, would have enriched my life. Or I'm left hanging out with my imaginings of who they really are and the prejudices that can follow from that. So I guess I wanted to second your call to, take the risk that's involved in opening yourself to people, because the rewards usually are greater than the risks, I think. Now there was something else I thought there a second ago. Now, where is that? I don't know. I lost it.
Well,
Maybe that's it for now.
maybe it'll come back to you. I just feel like, what you're talking about is, in some ways, you're talking about an antidote to regret. Like taking the risk is a kind of, you could think of it as, I never thought of this before, it's sort of an insurance against regret.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we use also when we're looking at, our actions. Should I go this way or that way? And if I do this or if I do that, if I'm going to do something that's maybe a little not so well intentioned,
Yeah.
then, how long will I think about that afterwards? How much will I regret it? Versus if I do sort of the right thing, then I don't have to think about it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's another version of respecting and valuing oneself, to take care of that in you that would offer that to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're talking about. Um, yeah. Did it come back to you?
It did. Thank you. I'm not sure what you said that inspired it, but it came to me.
I figured if I just say some stuff, it's going to
Yeah,
come.
right. It's actually something you said earlier that triggered it. And when you were talking about comparing yourself to other people, or something like that. And I realized I've done that a lot in my life. I've realized, I want to be Trudy. And I want to be whoever. And then I thought, no, it isn't that. It's like, I want the best parts of Trudy's life, but I want it to be me, if that makes any sense, right? I want to have my cake and eat it too. And so lately I've been thinking about it differently, because I thought, man, I've been doing this for too long. And when you were talking about seeing the specificity of other people, I realized that when I do that, when I'm willing to really find out about this person, I don't want to be them. I just get to appreciate them,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
There's a thing in 12 steps about not judging your insides by somebody else's outsides, and I think this is a, you know, kind of speaks to that too. So
Oh
anyway,
yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. That's a great slogan.
yeah. Anyway, thank you too.
Thanks, Bob. You want to unmute yourself, Juan? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, just was able to. Okay, yeah, it blocked for a second. I just wanted to ask you if you could elaborate a little bit more on, there's a phrase that you use that I've heard in other contexts. And I understand what they're getting at, but it was the, loyalty to the story,
To the suffering, I said.
to the suffering. But yeah, the story is often, stories are often the source of our suffering. Can you elaborate a little bit on letting go of that loyalty? Like, we get so tied to the suffering or the narratives. I guess to me, the phrase, when it was brought up to me, it was used loyalty to narrative, not loyalty to a story, which seemed to be compounding or continuing, serving more to continue one's suffering than helping one alleviate from it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's clear enough.
No, I think, well, we'll see. I think it's clear to me. I mean, I think what you're talking about is really the stories that either are sort of implanted in us by our the people who took care of us when we were young. You know, you're this kind of child, you're that kind of child, etc. The stories that we take on from the culture, the stereotypical stories, you know, Jewish people are like this, or Korean people are like that, or do you know what I mean? The cultural stereotypical stories that can other and marginalize um, and so forth. I think you're talking about, yeah, the narratives that um, the narratives that stay with you your whole life, and you have to keep kind of unpeeling layers of them or encountering them in different areas of your life. And when I talk about loyalty to them, I'm really talking about it's more like the familiar. You know, it's a familiar perception, and it may not be pleasant, but it's familiar. And sometimes moving into a different view of oneself, trying on a fresh look, you know, sometimes it can be disorienting or uncomfortable or bring up a lot of doubt. Do I have a right to present myself this way? Do I have a right to sit in a teacher's seat? Do I belong in a community where many people look different from me? Or do you know, all these doubts or questions that can come up, and you know, having the courage to be a little disoriented, to try on something new, to feel awkward, um, but maybe to have enough of that, nurturing enough of that beginning Vajra pride, that you have the courage to really explore and experiment with some different ways of being, and relating and receiving from others, trusting that you are welcomed. That's a big thing for you, Juan, knowing that you are welcomed and that your presence is welcomed and invited. I always was so happy when you were at Sunday Sitting Group and you would make these incredibly beautiful, sometimes kind of like almost a resume or of the talk, or a synopsis of the talk. And I would read it and I would think, oh my God, did I say that? Oh no, Juan wrote that. That's Juan's wisdom that he heard my talk with. um, so beginning to trust that, you know, you have these beautiful qualities, that people can see and recognize them in you, is important. And that's being disloyal to your habitual suffering and narrative, right? That's what I was talking about. So now, everybody, it's actually time for our time to come to a close. I don't know if Melissa is here. I didn't look through the gallery. Melissa was planning to be here. If you are here, just wave your hand, Melissa. They don't see her. Anyway, she was planning to be here. Melissa is going to teach next week because I'm going to be in retreat next week. And I'm actually going to be in retreat for 2 weeks. And I explained that last week. But that the second week, toward the end of my retreat, I will teach because I like to share the blessing of retreat. So that I will teach the following Sunday. But I want you to come and support Melissa next Sunday in between time. Okay? So let's just sit together for barely a minute. So at the end of a period of study and practice together, we dedicate the goodness of our practice to all beings everywhere without exception. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we and all beings grow in our capacity to welcome and appreciate ourselves and each other in our hearts. So thank you so much, everybody, for your practice and your presence. Everybody, you can unmute yourselves and say hi, goodbye. And I encourage you to join the breakout groups. And I very much look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful 2 weeks, everybody. Bye. And thank you, Caroline.